Okay, I think that we're ready to go. It's 6 o'clock Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern. I can get rid of the stream is starting now. Hopefully my camera's working. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me on this Tuesday evening, July 12th, 2022. I am very honored to be showing a pre-release copy of the TOGA Simulations Mitsubishi MU-2b. Would that be a good name for it, Tom?
It's the official name.
There you go. I am joined by Tom, who's the lead developer at TOGA. It's TOGA Simulations, right? And that's a rebranding from X Scenery. Is that right?
It is now, yes.
Okay.
I never got around to doing scenery. I think I was trying to do scenery before X-Plane was ready to do scenery, and that name just stuck for a long time.
There you go. The Delaware Corporation. He is the lead developer here on the MU2, so I'm very fortunate to have him along on the ride. This is a aircraft that is scheduled for a release this weekend. I believe it is still on schedule for Friday, or is that what's the word on that?
No, it's still scheduled for Friday. Absolutely. As far as exactly when, it's hard to say. It's a very long process packaging things up for deployment, but we're going to target, Friday afternoon, late Friday afternoon, Eastern United States time. So GMT -5 to somewhere in that ballpark is what we're targeting.
There you go. So this is a pre-release copy. Just keep that in mind that this is not the final product. In fact, there's been quite a number of changes since I installed this version, fixes and tweaks and enhancements. And so what you see tonight is a pre-release. There may be some things that we encounter that Tom has already addressed. Do want to say hello to Tylenol with Wings Continuum down in Australia. What time is it there? D-Money's 327 out of Texas. Hello. We got McTrine, Sparker and VR, and Tylenol with the subscribes. Thank you. And we got Komosko. Hello, good evening. I always struggle with pronouncing that name. 10 a.m.? Okay, we're good then. All right. Well, I'm here at San Francisco, and we're going to do some flying. And I think the first part of the stream here will be becoming familiar with the startup, and also once we get airborne, I think we'll start off with some basic VOR navigation. We'll go from San Francisco up to, we'll track the Point Reyes VOR, and then maybe head over to Napa Valley and the Napa Valley VOR, and then come back down and maybe shoot an approach at Oakland. Thank you, Fish Go Blue, for the 53 months. I appreciate it. Steve, PHL. Good day, sir. San Fantastic, exactly. Chili Willies is here. Hello. So, yeah, let's get inside the cockpit and take a look. So there are two variations of this Mitsubishi MU-2b. Or actually, there's several variations. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but there's 4-blade and 5-blade, and then there's what I call traditional steam gauge, and then there is this one, the Real Sim Gear G500. Do I have it all covered there?
That's correct. You've got the steam gauge, then that's with the old radios. Then you've got the steam gauge version with the GPSs, and then the final version is the glass. When you see here, of course, the glass being an extra product from X Aviation.
Yeah, so I think I'll show both tonight. I'll start off with the glass, and then we'll show the steam gauge toward the latter part of the stream. So, and just go ahead and talk a little bit about. There's been some questions in my community. Is this how much of this is V1, and what type of is it a massive overhaul, or how would you characterize this V1 to V2?
Completely new, as in essentially threw away V1. So that's the best way to describe it. I I had the old V1. So if there's anything I could say that's a remnant of V1, it would be just the most basic exterior of the 3D mesh. I kind of used it as a skeleton to graft a new 3D model on top of. Other than that, everything else is new. I obviously the experience that I had in the iXCG project, I built an enormous amount of software and code in that project that certainly was never in version 1. So I wanted to bring a lot of that advanced programming code into version 2.0. So the code is all new, probably except for the Garmin, the transponder. That's been around for 13 years. So I noticed Steve PHL here has asked if it's an X-Plane 12. So people keep asking if it's compatible with X-Plane 12. So here's kind of the official answer. It may be compatible with 12. Right? So what that means is I have a copy of 12 as a developer, and my workflow is to get it working for version 11. Now I've been around for a long time, and I used to work for Laminar, so it's I don't know exactly what 12 brings, but it's designed in such a way that I don't think porting to 12 is going to be very difficult. I check it in 12 very frequently when I have time, but the idea is to get it working in 11, because as you know, John, you've been around for a long time. 12 might take quite a while to stabilize. So the goal is let's get it out for 11 and people can enjoy it in 11. And as soon as I'm done with this and the bugs are stabilized, then my very next course of action, I actually have two at the same time. One is to start porting out the 12 version, and then the other one is to get the GTN 750 in it from Reality XP. Those two things will happen in parallel once the bugs report slow down on this. And then, of course, the version 12 will be a free version. So I anticipate maybe 20% of the project having to be looked at. I won't say redone at this point, but probably no more than 20% will have to be looked at to bring it into 12. But it looks beautiful in 12, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I am excited, and you kind of read my mind. That was my question: is will that be an upgrade, and that will be included in the sell price that comes here shortly on the X-Plane 11 version? And as Steve PHL said, solid strategy. I will go ahead and take a wild guess. No, obviously you can't speak. I'm sure there's NDAs involved in that, but I will take a wild guess that to some degree it'll be functional. It's just I'm just guessing though, but we'll find, and then it's a matter of just fine tuning. I'm thinking, but then again, it could be a bit of work on your part, but you're committed to make that happen because we know that X-Plane 12 is quote around the corner. So.
Yeah, and I don't, like I said, most of the customers may not be aware of my history. I worked with Laminar for 4 years. I've designed a lot of the version 10 airplanes. Yes, I'm very familiar with the way they do business, and I'm in touch with Austin and Philip. So, and I'm also aware of kind of where their major focus is for 12. And I don't see too many things getting in my way on this particular aircraft. So,
and I think the people that are going to stick on 11 for a time are also going to appreciate the efforts of putting it out on this, because I believe there's a couple of aircraft that were announced some time ago that said that now they will be X-Plane 12 only, and that's always unfortunate for those that are sticking on 11 until 12 gets really into a lane of updates. But we won't delay any further. One more question before I start the aircraft here and get going on that part of it. Sparker asks, is VR supported?
Maybe. All right. And the reason I say that is we went through a very comprehensive VR pass in the iXCG 737. Me and Jan did, and he's a big VR guy. And so I haven't really tested it, but all of those techniques that I used to make it VR compatible, there are the ones that I applied to this one as well. So I used a lot of what I knew to be VR friendly commands, but I do need to test it. So my plan is, I lied about having 2 things to do. I guess I actually have 3 things to do. Once it releases, I primarily work on an Apple, but I got a pretty nice Windows machine here. So as soon as it releases and I can breathe for a day or two, then I'm going to fire up the Windows machine, and I'm going to fire up the VR headset, and I'm going to test it. So the basic, I guess the answer to your question then, Sparker, is yes, absolutely. If it doesn't work out of the box, just give me a little bit of time because it is high priority. I really enjoy VR. I got a lot of things to do, but it's going to get addressed very, very rapidly. VR is very important to me.
There you go. All right. Well, you guys have been waiting for a little bit of at least the aircraft being turned on. Over here on the right-hand side, I do have my gizmo. I have MU preferences. Now, again, this is a preview copy, and I think you said yesterday, Tom, that this MU2 preferences screen has already changed from what I've installed.
A little bit. So
I'm going to remove. Go ahead.
Excuse me. Yeah, one of the things I added very quickly was I put a checkbox under there to always leave the key in the ignition. So as you might have seen in the previous stream, I put it in the cabinet, but when I have to test it, I got to turn it on, 55 times a day. I got really tired of having to reach back and grab the key. So yeah, since you got the copy, there's a few new preferences, a lot of new sounds, some of the peripheral stuff, but I think the majority of the 95% of most people's flying, you still have that functionality.
Okay.
So
I'm going to leave the GPU off for now. I'm going to toggle the nose wheel chocks off, yoke lock, pitot covers, engine intake covers. I'll leave the show tips at start on. And as you can see here, we also have the default transponder code, brake application, power level, detent ratio, and also one of my favorites is charge batteries. So if I turn the plane on and it's perfect for when I'm streaming and I start chit-chatting with you guys, then all of a sudden my battery's drained and I can just click that charge battery button. But we'll it's at 100% now because we're still on, so I'll go ahead and save that preference. We'll close that, and then as Tom was saying, that one of the new menu preferences is the ability to have the key stay in the ignition. I don't have that yet, so I come back here to this cabinet and I grab the keys that are hanging up right there. So if you ever want to steal a real world MU2, you can check that cabinet. I'm not going to bail you out of jail though. You also have your headphones here that can dampen the sounds in the sim as well. So we'll experiment with that. So once you click on that, you then have the key in the ignition down this way. And yes, Sparker, you said F mod, right, Tom?
Oh yeah, big time.
Yep.
Everybody has their passion, their priority, and the engine sounds really define the MU2. And I actually wanted to have it out 2 months ago, but as I explained to Cameron from X Aviation, which we all agreed that we just didn't compromise on the sounds. And F-Mod was new to me, and I've gotten pretty good at it. But 2 months ago, I didn't know anything about it. So you're gonna hear some of those pretty quick.
There you go. I'm gonna flick the battery on. I'm also gonna make sure that my sounds are enabled. The other day when I was, yep, we're good to go there. So we got some sounds there. I might adjust those as we enjoy those. It's a balance between too much sound that overdrives the chit chat. But you also want to showcase the beautiful sound. So it's a definite balance.
I designed all the sounds as if the volume sliders were at about 0.7.
Okay.
But that's very loud because the MU2 is an incredibly loud machine. And I've got a pretty good speaker set up. So I assume there's going to be a few people there that probably enjoy the really loud sound. So that's the way it was designed. But of course, you can turn it down if you need to.
There you go. So we got, I believe the enter button is also different on here on the release version. But on this one, we're going to hit the enter button here. And there's the G500. Now, again, this is an additional add-on, the G500, that is sold through X Aviation, right? But it's a real sim gear product. Is that correct?
Correct. It's a real sim gear product.
So resold through.
Yep. We discussed it almost a year ago or a year and a half ago, developing it for several aircraft because so many aircraft were starting to use it. And I'm really grateful to the Real Sim Gear team and Cooper from Torque Sim who took on the project.
Yeah, I do like the glass for sure. Over here on the left-hand side, we've got heading, course, altitude, vertical speed, and baro. So we'll go ahead and I'll show you just a little bit of this as we run down the batteries. Baro here in San Francisco is 29088. So I'm going to click on baro, and I'm going to rotate the knob to 29088. And then I can come up here to altitude, and I can again rotate the knob to, let's just go at 2,000 feet for right now. A little sightseeing tour around San Francisco for a bit. Here you can toggle, you know, the VOR and GPS, and I'll show you a bit of that in flight. Then over here, of course, you got the map and different options. All right, so I'm going to come down here. Now, there's obviously you can click on the yoke and get rid of it, have a little more visibility here in the cockpit. I'm just going to go ahead and get it started. The fuel quantity is something that you're going to want to manipulate through the X-Plane system. So here in my sim, you can do a total internal weight, or you can adjust the various tanks. And I'll just hit done on that and apply the changes. Once I turn on these inverters over here on the DC gen side, right down there above the, or not the, sorry, those are the generators. Here's the inverter right here. Once I switch that to main, then we should show the fuel quantity here.
Yeah, that's for the real technophobes. The main fuel quantity is on the inverter, the tips, and the other ones are on the DC buses. I can't say why that is. Usually things that are on a AC bus, you know, require what they call a synchro type for the avionics folks. They call a synchro, and that works off of alternating current. So you'll get this weird mix of some instruments. For instance, the torque meters work off of the AC buses while the other ones work off the DC buses. So you just got to kind of get used to it.
I love it when a developer actually knows the real aircraft. It's fantastic. Yes, sound D-Monies in the John Fly stream is a treat. Chili Willie says they get them at KBED Hanscom. The MU-2s, they're very loud, for sure. And then, yes, there is a discount for current owners of the V1 NM Flyer. Welcome to the stream. And I know there's several people that are super excited about this, but I will have a little shout out here to Continuum down in Australia, my Aussie mate, with the Twitch partner checkmark. I know he's very excited about this aircraft, and I'm going to tune into his streams of this aircraft and learn even more. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the main valves for the fuel. And again, you can go down to your Avi tab, and in the Avi tab, if I bring that up here, there's Avi tab, and that's new in this version. Sorry for my mouse is a little sensitive here tonight. So there's Avi tab. I've copied the aircraft documentation PDF over to the MU2 folder. The documentation is on a website for you to go to once you purchase the aircraft, and then you too can download that PDF and make it available here into the Avi tab. So if I go into documents, there's my checklist, and you can be very methodical and follow the checklist. And of course, if you're outside,
I heeded your advice, John. I was using an old version of AviTab. I didn't know that. So I got the latest version and put at least the checklist that you're looking at.
Oh, good.
In the documents folder. So when people purchase, they have an AviTab, they should be able to click on the documents and bring that right up.
I must admit, I'm kind of honored that I have some influence on the first iteration.
It was a good idea.
Yeah. So you do have the checklist, but today we're doing a little bit more of it, just a showcase of the systems, and you know, John Fly, he follows checklists about 17% of the time.
Yeah, me too.
Down here in the real world, you should always. This is only for simulation. Down here on the column, you've got your right hand ground start and left hand ground start. I'm going to go ahead and put this into the ground idle position. And then I'm going to put this ground into the right start position. And I'm also going to put that into, we can put that there. I can turn on both cranks, I believe.
Yep.
Which is not a problem. And then now that we have fuel and everything, am I missing anything for that engine start?
Nope. Nope. I think
So
we're pretty good. The intake covers are out. That's going to generate lots of bug reports probably. So
so we're going to hold down the engine start button. That you can see the pressure rising, and there's the yellow. So now on the outside of the aircraft, enjoy a little bit of the sounds. The animation looks beautiful. So as we go back inside the aircraft, checking pressures, fuel flow, temperatures. I can go ahead and do the same thing for, or I'm actually going to switch the ground over to the left. And again, I think that what was the other gentleman's, what was Graham's Twitch channel? That there's a VOD and there's also a YouTube video out there of his preview of this aircraft, and I'm failing to remember the Twitch name, but if you want to go into a lot of very technical detail about what's been modeled here with regard to the startup and the functions and the system that's all manipulated or all simulated, it's very fascinating. But today right now we're just doing a quick start, and then maybe after the first initial flight I may ask you a few questions about some of those nuances that Graham pointed out. Yeah, reflected reality sim. Yes, that's it. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and switch the ground here to the middle position. Then I'm also gonna do some pilot stuff. We'll put on the beacon, the nav, fasten seatbelt signs, no smoking. You have your panel lights up here as well. And then now that we have the aircraft running, we can turn on. Would you turn on the gens before avionics, Tom?
yeah, you do. You usually turn on the gen after each engine. So you start engine number 1, then you turn on its gens.
Okay.
Yeah, because the generator helps alleviate the load on the battery for the second engine start.
Okay.
But the radio masters always last. I don't have that fully simulated yet. That's pretty tricky electrical business where you get a reverse current that you could damage the radios, but you may not damage the radios.
Yeah.
So that's generally the practice is, you turn on the generators, and then when everything's up and running, then the last thing you do is turn on the radio buses.
Okay, so we've got that. And again, don't use my stream here as an official way to start the aircraft, because you just saw a corrected version right there from Tom. That's the beauty of simulation, though, is that we can kind of go our own way for a little bit, and if we really want to mimic the real world, we have the options to do that. All right, I'm gonna put in a let's just say we're squawk code 4433. I'll go ahead and squawk altitude here on the ground. So I'm hitting on or alt. There's alt. Okay, there we go. So now we're doing that. Go ahead.
Yeah, for your international folks, and I didn't know this, because I'm not international, there's a preference where you can set the default VFR code for the GTX. So like if you hit the VFR button, you can hit it twice. It'll go to 1200 and then it'll go back to 4433. But international users who use different VFR codes can go to the preference menu and type in whatever
7000 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they just type that in the preference, and as soon as they do, that VFR key will take them to their own VFR code. So.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and also do just a quick flight plan here, and get the cursor active in here. We're just gonna take off from San Francisco. We're gonna fly up toward the Point Reyes VOR which happens to be Papa Yankee Echo. And you can pre-populate this. For those that aren't familiar with the X-Plane GNS 500, you can pre-populate this with flight plans and directories and pull them up. It's very convenient. This way I'm just doing it manually. After point raise, we're going to go to Sonoma, or not Sonoma, Napa. Oops. So we'll go to Sierra Golf. And of course you have external hardware too that can manipulate this.
And
SGD.
777 was asking about the Garmin. Yeah, just about everything is simulated. As of Reflected Reality Sim, the flight timer wasn't working, but that was a one variable name change to get it to work. So yes, the countdown timer works, the count up timer works, the altitude deviation monitor works. So yeah, you should be able to use the real manual to operate.
Getting their smiley
GTX.
face. Almost
Nice.
5 years.
Thank you, Ding Driver, for the subscribe. 59 months, almost 5 years. These guys have been subbing to me, Tom. It's crazy. It's like I've spent like a large percentage of my life with these guys. I just turned 50, so you've spent 10% of my life with me, Ding Driver. It's crazy. Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and talk briefly about if people find. Talk me through again this pump. You know, that whole center tank situation. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so the center tank is the only one that feeds fuel to the engine. And so the way the automatic system works is it's designed to pump fuel from the tips first, because you don't want a lot of weight out on the wingtips in a landing. So that's the first place you want to burn all your fuel from. So the fuel tips, or the fuel switches there, when they're in auto, the way they work is the tips will feed the main fuel tank, and they will keep it full all the time. And that's done by bleed air. So your engines have to be running to pump fuel from the tip tanks to the main tank. So you can get in a situation, as crazy as it sounds, at least in X-Plane, it doesn't happen in reality, but in X-Plane it happens, where you'll turn on the keys and your main tank will be empty for, I don't know if X-Plane's randomizing fuel or what, but your engines won't be on, so you can't pump fuel from the tip tanks. So for that reason, there is a special switch, and you can highlight it. It's called the outer pump switch, and there's a manual mode on it. And when you flip that switch on, it's an electric pump, so it's not powered by the fuel bleed air. When you turn that switch on, then fuel is pumped from the outer pumps, which is the middle gauge there, into the main tank. So I've had situations where, you know, when I'm developing, I'm having to reload the airplane dozens and dozens of times a day. And I would run into these situations where I would run out of fuel in the main tank, because if you notice, the switches default to the off position when you start cold and dark, which I do frequently. So as I'm rebooting the plane day in and day out, I would run out of fuel in the tank, and I'd get very frustrated when it wouldn't start. And I'd be like, well, why doesn't it start?
Yeah.
But of course, flipping that switch to manual, you could pump just enough fuel into the main tank to get the engine started. Once the engines are started, then you can flip those switches, the transfer switches, to auto, and they'll begin transferring fuel from the tip tanks in there. So there's a weird story as to why Mitsubishi put that manual pump in there. It goes way back, and they changed it at some point in the design, but somewhere along the line, it was about trying to get the fuel out of the tips to avoid overstressing the wing on a landing with too much fuel in the tips.
Okay. So there's an indication that these knobs and these switches in the aircraft, many of them are not lipstick on the pig. They actually do function, which is a testament to the development. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and unlock. We got another subscribe. Thank you, Taylor114. I appreciate that. And yes, we discussed that at the beginning. It's going to be released for 11.
No one would ever sub for more than 50 months.
And
MU-2
and then 12 will be addressed. We're hoping that it's not too much of a project, but yeah. And it'll be a free update for 12.2 when that becomes official. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead, continue. Thank you for this subscribe. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no paid update for the version 12. People need to understand that one. No
Yeah,
paid
it's
update.
very important.
I'll update it for 12 as fast as I possibly can, and it'll be free for customers.
That's awesome. And hello, Hat Trick and B2. Hope you guys are well. All right, so I'm gonna do this prop release situation. So that one, I'm gonna go ahead and put up the propellers up to the takeoff landing, and then I'm gonna bring that into the. Now, does this, when it's hovering just above, I know you're on a bit of a delay on the stream, but when this is right here, is that actually in the reverse position, or does it need to go below that line?
It's probably in and about that position. So
Okay.
the reason why is you move the levers in that yellow and black region, you're changing the pitch of the props. So you really can't say exactly when it's in reverse. It doesn't have that concept. At some point you're pitching the blades. At some point you get reverse thrust. Now through experimentation, you actually get a feel for it with your own joystick after a while. That's the fun thing about it.
Okay.
Once you do it enough, you'll start to know where your reverse thrust comes in. So,
Okay.
and if you're a real diehard, you can always, like you in your upper left-hand corner, you can actually turn on the thrust data, and you can watch your thrust up there if you want to.
Oh yeah, the data ref up here, like I do with the frame rate and the barrow. Okay, perfect.
You can do both the prop pitch and the thrust, and you can see if you're getting negative thrust right up there if you want to.
Oh, nice. All right, I'm gonna. Go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off there.
Nope. Yeah, your turn.
I'm going to go ahead and set flaps 20. My understanding is that the MU2 always takes off with flaps 20. Well, for the most part, flaps 20. And we'll also set the prop to taxi. There are unfeather buttons down here that come into play that we'll talk about after this initial flight, but I think we can get her going. I'm going to release my parking brake, and I'm using my rudder pedals to make this turn. Wind here at San Francisco is negligible, so runways are my option. So we will take off on runway. Take off from, we'll do a long taxi down to 28 right. At what point do MU2 pilots engage prop sync?
Usually, I would say shortly after. You can do it shortly after takeoff, but if you put yourself in the position of a pilot, it's the kind of thing they probably don't think about until they're out of the airspace and and then they realize they got this prop phase thump, and then they may remember to do it at that time. But you can do it as soon as you take off if you like. But your mind is so busy after takeoff with cleaning the plane up, going to altitude, making your radio call. So
yeah,
a lot of pilots will do it once everything settles down and all of a sudden they actually hear the props. They'll remember to turn it on at that point.
Okay. And then you said that I think you were saying something along the lines of there's a lot of propeller sound change with taxis with a lot of MU2 pilots. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, so the Mitsubishi's official documentation will tell you that the beta region, that's the yellow and black region, is for ground ops. But the taxi rates can be slow because half of that region is reverse. You have to keep the power levers towards the front of that region to get any forward thrust, and it's not a whole lot. So what pilots do is they'll throw it into the alpha region, and the minute they do, the RPMs will pick up quite a bit, and they'll get a little bit of speed going, and then they'll pull it back into beta, maybe even reverse. So if you watch YouTube videos that have a long taxi with an MU2, you'll hear this these sounds and the clicks of the throttle where it'll be meow, meow, and they're going, back. Just think of it as driving a car. You push the gas and let off the gas as needed.
There you
And
go.
that's what they do. But the point is, it's okay to go in the alpha region to get a lot of thrust to get going,
Yeah.
and then to pull them, and then to pull back into the beta region. So they're always moving the throttles in and out. That's just the way they do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no right or wrong way.
Hello, Nightmare Frame. Yeah, there's we actually showcased the engine, the startup sound quite loud on my stream, unusual for a John Fly stream. The Sparker asks, you moved both thrust levers at the same time. Yes, it just so happens that my joystick is bound to both at the same time, but you can bind these separately and also manipulate them with the mouse separately or two different prop axes, right, Tom?
Yeah, I've got the online documentation will cover all of that. If you use a keyboard and mouse, then that's one section of the docs. If you use a single paddle with no detent, that's another section. A single paddle with a detent's another one, and multiple paddles are also covered. So just about everybody gets covered depending on your hardware.
One thing that also is common for MU2 pilots is to put in quite a bit of aileron trim, correct? To the left?
Yes and no. For flight simmers, because they're not used to, I mean, there's 1,400 horsepower on takeoff. It's an enormous amount of torque. And if you watch a few videos, you'll see some pilots, as soon as they pull off, they'll end up, really cranking that yoke way over to the left. So it really depends on the pilot. If you have a owner of an MU-2 and he knows his plane really well and he knows its characteristics, then yes, he may put in roll trim prior to takeoff. But the plane, once it accelerates, you have to kind of dial it out. So some pilots might just say, the heck with it, especially, all right, this is going to sound crazy, but if you're left-handed, or let me rephrase, it's very normal for you to hold a yoke with your left hand. So when you turn it to the left, your arm's in this very actually relaxed position. So some pilots are very happy with that. And then as they speed up, the plane gets to less and less trim, so that they don't use trim at takeoff. So I guess the point is that the plane requires a lot of trim. Whether or not you want to dial it in right at takeoff so you get a straight takeoff is up to the end user, because if you do it that way, then as you gain speed, it's going to end up rolling in the opposite direction. You're going to have to trim it anyway. So it's just a matter of preferences as to whether or not you want to trim it before you take off or after you take off.
In VR, a middle section between the levers moves both?
It should. They're manipulators. I may have to tweak that range, but the way I've coded it up now is and this is a philosophical, it's a little bit different from say, a Hot Start and their philosophy. But if the levers get apart, then you move them one at a time. But once you get them close enough together, then the manipulator for both of them should appear in the middle of them in VR, and you should be able to move both of them, yes.
I'm going to set you can set your cabin altitude pressure over here, so that's nice. Not that I'm going to altitude, but you do have that option over there. And I also did turn on some air conditioning. Ooh. I've noticed that I've got, there's times where the torque needle did spin. Is that normal, or is that something that maybe is related to my hardware?
The torque needle
so
for the engine?
Yeah, so for example, if you watch the torque needle here, I'll try to replicate it. It spun all the way back around at one point. So if I go up here and then I turn it off quickly, no, I can't. At some point, I'm going to try to replicate it where it actually went past like 12 o'clock and started coming back around. It's really weird.
Actually, that's a good catch, John. I probably do need to stop those at 0. In fact, I think I may have already. You just don't have that update.
Okay.
Because I think I saw it on there. So yeah, they do have a mechanical stop at 0 when they have negative torque. So when you land, for example, they'll as you come and land and throw them into reverse. Now, this is going to probably confuse a few people. Reverse doesn't necessarily mean negative torque. It's kind of hard to describe on the gearbox. But if you look at videos of YouTube's, they'll land, they'll throw them into reverse, and you'll see those needles very rapidly go down to 0. But as the reverse thrust comes in, there's torque on the gearbox, and then you'll see the needles go back up to about 20.
Okay.
So that's actually on my to-do list to check. It's basically I just need to put a mechanical stop at 0 is all I need to do.
Okay.
So yes, that's a good catch, and that's something I'm going to look at.
Okay. Barrel went down 1, so we'll click the barrel button, rotate the knob just 1 here, go back to heading sync. What is the speed this plane flies at, Tom? Is the question in chat.
Well, it's actually right on the money with most real one. If you jump on FlightAware, most people who own the long body, they flight plan for 270 knots, which is about 305 miles an hour. I don't know what that is in kilometers an hour, times 1.6, 400 and change.
That's impressive speed.
What does that work out to? 480 kilometers per hour. So the short body's a little faster. Short body MU-2s will typically flight plan around 300 knots ground speed. This one's really solid at 270 to 275 at altitude. That's one reason I really enjoyed, this aircraft. When I learned to fly around X-plane, it could move me around the flight sim world pretty quick, but it wasn't very complex. So you could fly it with you could navigate it like it was a 172, but at a much more significant speed. So for online flying in VAT sim, it was a lot more fun.
So it just so happens that at the present moment, let's see, I'm going to make one change. There's not very many of these aircraft available on FS Economy. So if you are an FS Economy enthusiast, you may want to go grab these, because I think upon release, the price will go up. Snack Air bought one, and there are 3 for sale. Unfortunately, none of them are in the U.S. The closest one is Romania. Or no, the closest one would be... Oh, there is one for sale in Florida. I may not go buy it right now. But it's a good machine for FS Economy, in my opinion. It's got a lot of capacity. All right, so we're going to hold short here of 28 right. Put on our parking brake momentarily. And again, I've turned on the landing lights, beacon, nav, strobe. Not worried about anti-ice today or windshield heat. There's your wipers. We might turn on some panel lighting. Actually, we can turn that up now in case we do shift the time to a night lighting moment situation.
So I thought about putting in an option. John, you can tell me if you'd like it. It's called to auto adjust the lighting based on the time of day.
Oh, that would be cool. I would definitely make it an option though, to turn that option on or off. But I like it. Yeah.
I mean, I do it all the time. When you start with the engines running, then I basically look at the sun position, and if it's dark, I turn on the turn on the rear. But I don't do it all the time, so that would be an option. So by the book, 9 passengers.
9. Okay, so and then FS Economy has it's showing 9 seats, 8 passengers, because obviously one is for the pilot, and it is single pilot certified, I believe.
That it is.
And in FS Economy, it's showing capacity 404 gallons, 80 gallons per hour, and it's Jet A. Yep.
Right.
All right. And by the way, this tail number is registered on FS Economy, so I don't know where that one came from, because I tried to grab it and it was already taken.
That tail number, it's got a history.
Okay.
Yeah, that was was a significant number in uh, one of one of the X Aviation team members when we first started the whole endeavor back in 2008.
Mm.
And I needed a tail number, and I had occasion to come across that number, and I'm like, I'm gonna use that as kind of this memory of where we started the whole thing. But yeah, so it persists to this day.
Well, November 45 X-Ray Sierra is the Baron, I think.
Yeah, that's it's a little secret behind that one. People don't know. I worked for Laminar at the time. X stands for X scenery, and 45 was my age at the time that I did it.
Oh, wow. See, we're getting the backstory of these classic tail numbers. That's
But
awesome.
I couldn't repeat it twice. You'll notice that the King Air default is 43 XS.
Ah.
So maybe I was the King Air first, and I was 43 at the time I did it. So it was a little cheat jab. I snuck an X scenery into the default aircraft.
I'm gonna forever associate you with that when I see those tail numbers. So.
Yeah, real quick. You know what the heck?
Yeah, I like it. There's a few John Fly Easter eggs around the X-Plane universe that developers have thrown in here and there, and one of my favorites is at Salt Lake City with Short Final Design. Salt Lake City. It's
Easter eggs are actually a big deal to me. I think that, now that I'm up to speed on all the brand new tools that are used and I'm finally modernized, I can start focusing on some more fun things about the sim than the required things.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of cool Easter eggs that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lightsaber in the TBM. There's.
Yeah, I'm gonna slip into the update. Got some good ideas.
There you go. All right. I'm going to take off here 28 right. Tower has just told me telepathically that I'm cleared for takeoff. So we're going to take that all the way up. And I'm going to turn up the sound just for takeoff for you audiophiles. Won't be a ton of sound, but got a long runway here. I can do a slow. I love the bouncing of the aircraft based on the runway. I like that. I don't have any aileron trim, so when we take off here, we're gonna have to compensate with the yoke. We're gonna go gear up and a quick flyby. Here a little bit.
One trick that a lot of MU-2 when I was flying one of the cargo guys, it's a little non-standard, but when you're an MU-2 pilot, it's the last thing you want is your engine to die on you at takeoff. So what they'll do is they'll come off the runway, and people in backcountry will do this. They'll come off the runway and they'll stay really low to the ground for ground effect because they accelerate faster.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll get their flaps up. What they're trying to do is get to VYSE as fast as possible, which is 150 knots, which is their engine out speed where they can still climb. So they'll lift off the runway, get the gear up, but they'll stay straight and level, really close to the ground, so they can get their speed up. And then once they get to about 155, then they'll pull up very rapidly at that point.
Okay, that's a good tip.
The official manuals don't tell you that, but MU-2 pilots are like, well, I don't care what they say. I want to make sure that I've got enough speed in case an engine goes out, that I've got enough speed to climb. And that's what we used to do. So it made for some pretty fun climbs at the end of the runway, right? So
yeah.
But it's bona fide. That's what they would do.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna sync up my heading bug. I found a switch on that, and then I'm gonna turn on my autopilot, my yaw damper, and I'm just gonna go into heading mode for the time being. I also could come back here to the cabinet here and grab the headphones. So we've got some nice noise canceling headphones.
I think the noise canceling's too much. I'm going to back off of the effect a little bit because you don't get to enjoy any of the sounds. Now, John, have you tried the control wheel steering command yet? Have you ever given that a go?
No, I haven't. Let me change my altitude here. Actually, I'm gonna click down here. Let's do the control wheel steering in just a second. I'm gonna click on the vertical speed, and I'm gonna select VS up here, and I'm gonna go down at -700. But I'm gonna tell the aircraft to alt select and arm that. So just because I want to get, I just want to do a little sightseeing here below the clouds. See, it's still climbing. Let's see, that's AP's on. Did I go positive on that vertical speed accidentally? I did. All right, there we go. So now we'll go down. We'll go down at 700. There we go. All right, so is the control wheel steering, is that something we do on autopilot or off of, I guess?
Yeah, no, it's something you do on autopilot, and what it does, it's usually used not with heading mode. It's usually used with wings level, and it's usually used in pitch hold mode and roll hold mode, right? So let's say one of the cool things is if you got really disoriented in your aircraft, you could quickly turn on the autopilot, hold the control wheel steering, get the plane the way you want it, and let it go, and it will hold that attitude. So
Okay.
that's the way it works. It's a command. You can assign it to your yoke button. If you bring your 3D yoke back, you can see, I think the control wheel steering's on the yoke. But I really got comfortable with that thing more. Now, when you're flying a heading or a route, it's not as useful. But when you're trying to reference charts and your mind's trying to do two things at once and you need the plane to be stable, it's really cool to just hit the autopilot button, engage, hold the control wheel, put the plane where you want it, and then let go.
Yeah.
It's very handy. It's very handy control.
I'm going to have to try that for sure. I want to see if I can tune in this VOR. So I'm going to slow down just a little bit here. Or that's the vertical speed. You got to be careful when you go to change your heading and you're actually in the VS mode.
And don't worry about the barber pole. I removed it. The barber pole on an aircraft at 250 knots is really not used. It's on there. I don't know why it's on some MU-2s. Especially it's a complex topic about Mach speed over the wing and some other things, but the MU-2 never really gets to a critical Mach speed at 250 knots. So a lot of MU-2s don't even have that barber pole. So I just removed it.
All right, I'm gonna change my VOR frequency to 113.7, which is point raise. It's already looks like the DME's coming in at 20 miles. I'm gonna actually level off here because I'm getting a little bit low based on terrain. Now what I'm gonna do. Oh, it is. I'm hearing the CW. That's cool. Yeah, PYE. I know CW because I'm a ham radio operator, so it's... All right. So I'm going to... This is on VOR. Now I'm going to click on... Actually, you know what? VS. Make sure that... We'll climb just a little bit here just to be safe. 500. VS mode. And we're going to switch the altitude up to 4,000. There we go. All right, we'll turn off the CW in just a second and go back to heading mode. All right, now I'm going to dial, I'm going to go back to course, and I'm going to rotate this course knob around until we get a heading to point raise VOR. So I'm rotating the knob until that needle lines up. And there is the needle lining up. And then I'm going to hit nav up here. We're going to capture that. Now, audio panel, Tom, for the nav radio. I'm assuming that I can just adjust this volume of the nav radio and that'll go down, or
Which volume you
oh wait,
referred to?
wait. It's up here. All right, so I've got I'm gonna turn off nav 1 so I'm not hearing the CW. There you go. So there's the way to identify the VOR with the Morse code. So there you go.
Yeah, it's tucked under there.
And there it's recapturing the radio. CWS in the 737. Oh yeah, that's where I've seen that for sure. Yeah. Huge price reduction on NVIDIA cards today if you're interested. I could use another 3080 for sure. Iowa Scotsman, hello. If you guys have any questions, I have the developer here in the chat with me, and Tom's being super friendly and nice and helpful, taking time out of his day to show us his aircraft. This will be available on xaviation.com. And big shout out to Tom and Toga Simulations and X Aviation, Cameron and crew for allowing me to show this on a Tuesday night. And lately I have not been streaming on Tuesday night, so it's a pleasure to show something here on a weeknight. All right, we are tracking the DME shows 7.7 to point raise. That's perfect. I'm sure there's going to be some really cool liveries that come out from painters too. There's many good looking aircraft that come, paint job liveries that come with it. So you can have some great stuff right out of the box. We might need a Snack Air livery. I tell you what, my scenery's not looking too bad, Tom.
No, I was just admiring it too. What scenery is that?
Yeah, I believe this would be Orbex, True Earth, Northern California. It just looks fantastic.
It does. You know what? I didn't pay attention to where you were flying, but I know that area. I worked in San Francisco for a year, and we used to drive up north out of San Francisco, and I remember a bay like that.
Yeah.
In fact, that's flying right over the zone. I worked out of a little town called Mill Valley.
Okay.
Which I think is just off your right wing, probably. I think George Lucas lives off in that area.
Hi, George. Yeah, it looks fantastic. Has the purchase price been released yet? I do not believe so.
It has not been released, no. Cameron will release that on Friday.
All right, so I always like finding the VORs, and there it is, right there. There's a road even up to it. There's the VOR right there.
Cool.
So now we'll go into heading mode, and we'll rotate. Oops. I'm gonna change this to heading. Do a turn. There's a lighthouse up here too, I believe. I think I went to that about 20 some odd years ago. I went to that lighthouse, or I saw it from the shore anyway.
I know there's a lot of oyster joints along that road, but it is beautiful.
All right, I'm gonna do another VS. We're gonna go down, back down to 4,500. I'll do the capture select, back to heading mode, and rotate that knob over. I like the prior version and look forward to the updated one. Yeah, I'll be honest. I had a few issues with the original one, and it could very well have been pilot error. But I also remember the what was that one plane that always caught fire because I didn't know what I was doing? It was the one by Javier. what was that one called? You guys know what I'm talking about.
Is that the
The
Jetstream?
yeah. So I may have, but I was flying this at the same time as the Jetstream, and so maybe there might be some PTSD that's more blamed on the Jetstream than the than the MU-2 back then. Seems like I fought the throttle, but again, it was probably pilot error and hardware. I just needed to change some things there. But yeah, if you haven't turned the Jetstream, if you have not put the Jetstream on fire, you probably haven't simmed enough with it.
That's funny. You know, as developers, we want to simulate all the type of failures that you do. But yeah, I have to admit the Mitsubishi, the Garrett engine with the SRL system is a really, really solid system. It
Yeah.
manages the auto start really, really well, and it's just a really simple plane to fly.
Yeah, it's Continuum. It says, I love that plane. As soon as you said caught fire, I knew. There's a reputation. All right, I'm going to turn up the exterior sound just a little bit for a flyby. Again, we got to show off some of these nice, cool sounds. So here we go on the flyby.
Well, you're showing the one sound that I wanna tweak a little more. Doppler effect is kind of really tough to get right.
It doesn't sound too bad to me, but then again.
No, it's good enough.
Yeah.
I'm as crazy as it sounds. I'm not trying to pass things off on the customers. I'm probably the pickiest guy, you know. So the Doppler might be mathematically right because you know the way you're moving the camera. I mean, you don't get up in the real world and sit there in the middle of the air and watch a plane fly by it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
at 280 knots, but your perception of it is usually at a slower speed on the ground, things of this nature.
Yeah.
So I'm one of these guys that's like, well, I kind of want it to be the way the brain perceives it, not necessarily the way physics dictates. So
Yeah.
I'm going to tweak it and see what people think, and if not, we can put it back.
All right, I appreciate you guys being here tonight, and as a sign of my appreciation for this wonderful preview pre-release, I'm going to go ahead and I don't know the price, but I'm going to go ahead and give away this aircraft. So if you win the giveaway tonight, you will get this aircraft. I will pay for the aircraft, whatever the price is, and hopefully it doesn't make it so I can't make the mortgage, but I don't think it will. So we're going to give away one of these tonight, and I'm going to use snacks as the currency, but tonight is going to be special. It's going to be just a one snack buy-in. So if you've been watching the stream for a few minutes, you're going to get a snack. So you can check your snack balance, I hope, by typing in !snack, but don't spell it incorrectly. So those of you who know can check your balance. We will give away one. I'll open that up here in just a moment, and then toward the landing or toward the end of the stream, we will go ahead and give away this aircraft. And again, I will make it available to you shortly after release. I'll pay for it and get that fulfilled. All right, I'm going to try another bit of navigation here, and I'm going to go ahead and select SGD on the GNS 500. So SGD is the official name is Skaggs Island. It's up near Napa County Airport. So I'm going to click Direct to, and I'm going to activate it. And we're going to talk about this situation. Normally, John Fly is used to, once he goes down here and he toggles the CDI, and he takes it to GPS 1, this is very important, so you autopilot pilots pay attention. I'm very used to just going up here and selecting the nav button. This nav is tied to the radio frequency navigation. Tom, give me a better definition. I'll show you guys how to engage. Well, I'll do it right now. In order to engage the GPS, you have to come down here to the GPSS button, and hopefully that will go on. And sure enough, it does. As soon as I hit GPSS, it went over to that direct waypoint of SGD. Tom, go ahead and talk about why that nav button doesn't engage that GPS CDI and how it's mimicking the real world.
That's because this is a Sperry SBZ 5000 autopilot, which is a very old autopilot. It only understands radio signals. So when you hit the nav button, it's looking to the VOR frequency range in order to capture. So when GPS came along, you can put in this nice magenta route, which is not a radio signal. It's lat long, it's a lat long. But the connection came with the language that these electronics speak, right? We're talking about, it's called an ARINC 429 standard. And the electronic signal that the autopilot works off of, the heading, the old GPS units can speak that language. So the way it works is when you hit the heading button, your autopilot will fly the heading that you dial in. But when you hit the GPSS button, your heading button is ignored, and your GPS basically sends a constant heading signal to your autopilot, just saying, hey, fly this heading, and just stay on this heading. And as long as you stay on this heading, you'll follow the magenta line. So this GPS HDG button that you see is normally an aftermarket conversion. So you go off and you buy your avionics. And if you want to fly a GPS flight plan, you have to purchase one of these called GPSS converters. And that's what this simulates. So it's really flying heading. It's just setting the heading constantly based on the magenta line behind the scenes. So if you want to go back to the heading mode where you dial it in yourself, then you hit that button, it'll go back to heading, and you can do that. So yes, the nav button is radio only. So finally, what some people will do is you'll put in a flight plan that will allow you to intercept an ILS. So you'll fly GPSS mode and you'll follow this magenta line until you get close to the ILS. And when you get close to the ILS, then you can hit the nav arm button or the nav button. And when you cross the ILS, then the autopilot will pick up the radio signal and fly the ILS. So it's a little bit tricky. It's a way of, it's a technique of taking an old autopilot and letting it fly modern flight plans. And that GPSS converter is the way it's done.
Okay, so I've engaged a little bit of a situation here. So, and DC9 Captain will answer your question in just a second. So I've got autopilot still engaged. I've now synced up the heading bug. I want to go back to heading mode. And the GPSS HDD button looks like it won't untoggle. Am I doing something? Let's click heading. There we go. There's heading. And oh yeah, there we go. I had to hit it a couple of times in order for it to go in. And DC9 Captain, to answer your question, the green light was there because it was on HDG and not GPSS before. But did you see that happen there, Tom?
I saw that, and that could be, as crazy as it sounds, it could be a hardware situation where you're getting some sort of double click on your hardware. Now, I try to avoid that, where you're basically clicking it on and off real quick. I saw some blinking. That could be the case. But to answer DC9, so the way it works is when you're in GPSS mode, okay, first the autopilot must be engaged. That's down below the seats. If it is, then the GPS will look for a flight plan on the GPS. If it's not there, then so it is engaged. But if there's no flight plan, then the GPSS button can be lit, but it really won't do anything. Okay. Now, X-Plane 12 is going to change this behavior a little bit. The GPSS button will pick up a flight plan no matter how far away it is from you, and that's not the way it works in reality. And I think that X-Plane 12 is going to clamp down on that. So if you hit if the GPSS button is green and you have a flight plan and your autopilot's engaged, but you're too far away from the flight plan, it may not turn to intercept. And in that case, you would switch to heading mode and you would basically fly yourself closer to the flight plan. And when you got within a certain distance, you would engage the GPSS button and it would pick up the magenta flight plan and join the route. That's the way it's supposed to be.
V2 says, is it single push click button or up down toggle button? I've just been clicking it.
Yeah, I've never seen that. That's curious, John. I'll have to look into that. Usually,
and again, it could be specific to my hardware or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I say hardware because I know the code behind the button, and the way it works is you click the button, it literally alternates modes back and forth. It's
Well,
not.
let's do some quick experimentation here. If I try to engage GPSS right now, um, it doesn't. Okay, it took that time. But as you saw, I was clicking it before and it wasn't taking. So maybe it. You know what? A long press does it.
Your button a little bit
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the short
you're,
press is the issue.
you're getting what they call in the world of electronics probably a bounce. It's a hardware issue, right? And they actually have for geeks who like to program, they actually have what they call debounce libraries and code. Because if you could look at your electric signals through an oscilloscope, you would see it bounce up and down, which might be interpreted by the electronics as a double click.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
when you understand these things, you can go to a long press to make sure you don't deal with this. But we as programmers, it's actually the hardware guys who built your hardware. It's their job to program their hardware to avoid a double bounce, and most of them are pretty good at it. But once you kind of understand these things, it's crazy. But that's the kind of stuff that goes on in the world.
I just love that we found that quick fix for me, because that's not something that you have to work on. That's just the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, real life avionics.
But maybe a line in the document would be beneficial to some that try to do what I do.
Yeah, that's one most people wouldn't key up on. It's a hardware thing, and in real world avionics, when you get that's one reason certified avionics are so expensive in switches, because you can't afford to have a debounce.
Yeah.
So they put a lot of engineering into avoiding that stuff, and consequently real hardware is very, very expensive. So.
All right, I'm gonna set up for the
Thank you, DC9.
I'm gonna set up for the Oakland runway 30. We're gonna shoot an approach, and so we're gonna go downwind here for a little bit. I have flown in this area as a student pilot. I flew out of Oakland in a Piper, a PA-28, and I never shot an instrument approach, but I landed on 28 right, and I spent a lot of time as a student on the radio flying out of Oakland, being at right near the Bravos, Charlie. Okay, so we'll go down this way. I'm going to do it old school. We're going to dial in the ILS of 108.7. So we'll come down here and we'll push in the nav. Let's see here. We'll go to 108.7. It's kind of funny. I just had a flashback to the last time that I did an ILS approach into Oakland onto runway 30. Believe it or not, it was in a helicopter. X-plane developer out of the UK showed me his aircraft and walked me through doing an ILS approach in a helicopter.
That is impressive.
It was pretty dang cool. All right, we're going to switch that up.
Iowa Scotsman, the answer is yes. That's high priority. I've got this priority list after release. The highest priority is to squash all the bugs. After that, it is to get the GTN 750 into the panel.
You heard it here, folks. GTN 750. Oh, it's one of my favorites. I'm going to hit the course. We're going to change the course to 296. And by the way, you guys out there in VOR/Alpha the universe, you guys know you do not have to set a course. You can intercept a glide slope and intercept an ILS. You can do the whole ILS approach without even setting your course in your 737s as well as your 172s. It doesn't matter. It's just for reference, setting that course. Some people just don't understand that. If you're intercepting a radial, it's a little bit different. But for an ILS, you don't have to set the course, and it'll still capture. Someone was disagreeing with me on that the other day.
That was one of the lessons I got from Philip about intercepting radials with a course. Was it was a way to prepare the aircraft for a gradual intercept, because it's measuring deviation, and if you didn't kind of give it a hint of where the intercept course was, then it would overshoot and not catch it, and all sorts of stuff. So Flying an old radio autopilot with OBS is pretty interesting.
Hmm. All right, I'm going to set an altitude. I've clicked the altitude button. I've rotated this knob to set up 2000. And up here, I'm going to go ahead and Alt select in arm, so it'll capture the altitude. I'm also going to slow down just a little bit here. And I'm going to go VS down. I noticed that this is what happened. So if I come down here, and I'm not sure if this is normal, but if I click on VS and I designate, let's say in this case, I designate minus 500 feet per minute. Up here, well, actually in this case, it's not going to do it, but let's turn the VS off. If I come down here to the VS and I designate 500 feet, and then as soon as I come up here and hit VS, it takes my current VS and sets it to that. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's a disconnect between a modern avionic and an older autopilot. So the VS functionality of the MU-2 on this Sperry, it basically flies the vertical speed at the instant you hit the button. Okay.
Okay.
So on the modern avionics, when you have a more modern autopilot, you can, setting the VS is essentially almost a concept of a level change. And this is an older autopilot that doesn't get to leverage all of the advanced features that a G500 has to offer. Once you kind of understand that you have a hybrid situation where you're dealing with an older autopilot and you understand its limitations, then you can obviously work with those limitations. And it gets to be pretty natural. Usually the method is to make sure you're not in altitude hold mode. You adjust the pitch wheel to the vertical speed or indicated airspeed that you want to hold. And then when you like it, you hit one of those buttons and it will hold those speeds.
Makes sense.
And that's the way that old autopilot works. I do have a supplement in the document that I'm working on that's specifically geared at this SPZ 5000. So it'll be online. So when users like, oh, how do you use this button? You can immediately go to the online docs, the Sperry supplement, look up the function. It will describe how it works. And then shortly after release, I hope to get several autopilot tutorials up.
Perfect.
Because once you understand it, once you understand how it works, it's a lot of fun to use because it's not an FMS, it's not a 737, but it's capable, but it does have its nuances.
Yeah. All right, I've opened up the giveaway, the MU2b V2 giveaway. Again, once you enter this with exclamation raffle space 1, you have to be present to win, and I am going to fulfill this to you after release within a day or two, depending on if I'm in front of Discord. So try to join my Discord so I can communicate and give the fulfillment of the aircraft to you via Discord. And you can type in exclamation Discord should give you a link to join the Discord. And good friendly folks over that way. All right, I'm going to change my heading a little bit. We need to be at 2000 at the Mito intersection, so I'm gonna or Mito waypoint. Oh, okay. So there's my hardware acting up. So okay. So yeah. So if you watch the stream, you'll see that the torque went a little bit wonky with that whole clockwise thing. For a second, we can watch the VOD where it went like to 120 and back and forth. So I'm not sure what's happening there, but I think we're back to stable now. All right, let's go heading mode here. I'm glad we were able to see that on the stream, what I was talking about earlier, but now you can see at what point. I just made a small change in my throttle. Does it come in a light blue? I think it can for you, Dogo. For sure. All right, I'm going to slow down a little bit more, and then we're going to make a turn here. So again, put in exclamation raffle space 1 to enter the giveaway for this aircraft. Again, we don't know the price, but I will gladly buy it for one of you. So thank you. My lawyer says not to do giveaways that you don't know the price of the giveaway, but we're ignoring the lawyer. I don't know if you caught that flip around of the torque percentage or not, Tom, but
No, I didn't.
okay.
I'm getting a kind of a distorted display, and I think the frame rates are hurting that.
Okay.
That being said, I'm just going to put a stop on it. There are certain regimes when you decelerate the engine really rapidly, and you're pulling the throttle back, and I don't know what action preceded it. I'm gonna is it?
It
fair
could be
to say-
that, yeah.
Did you pull?
I think I was pulling back and maybe a little bit faster. The sensitivity on my throttle may not be ideal.
Yeah. In the real plane, obviously, you meter that back so that you don't get massive kind of negative torque. So that, like I said, it's a change. I mean, we do have limitations with the hardware that we use. The best I'll probably do is just put a virtual stop at the 0, and
Yeah.
you'll find that to be somewhat accurate. Like I said, you can see YouTube videos where you'll see them pull their throttles back in reverse, and they will hit the stops and then come back up. So I think that'll be a little more realistic than what you're seeing now, and I'll address that.
Awesome. The fact that you're available and you are on, you're watching streams on Twitch and YouTube and that, and you could see things that happen, and I'm sure that, there'll be a few things that come up next week.
Yeah, I'm quite positive that will be the case. So,
all right, I'm going to go ahead and hit the nav button. That should intercept this localizer into Oakland. Oh, there it is again. I just brought the throttle down just a little bit, and it went past 0. So yeah, once you put that stop in, it should be
what
fine.
may be happening, so it could be, depending on your response curve and X-plane, you could be temporarily going into the beta region.
Yeah.
For instance,
yeah.
on my hardware, when I go into the calibration, I set the point where it goes into beta well behind where my stop is, because if joystick has too much noise, it'll keep going in and out, and it'll keep jacking with the torque.
Makes sense.
Just the limitation of I don't have the best hardware either. So it's, but that's kind of a hard thing to get across to people. Is the hardware that we deal with is not quite as has the realistic behavior and resolution as real hardware. And I think that's one of the major disconnects in flight simulation. So
yes. Okay. I think you're right. I think it's going into it.
Yeah.
I got to adjust mine, because as soon as I get below 40, then that's when it. Yeah.
Are you using a single paddle?
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm using a joystick, a Thrustmaster HOTAS.
But with no detent, right?
I don't have a detent, no.
Yeah, what's been suggested to me is a good. It's the TBM 900 has kind of a virtual where if you go into your reverse region, which is exactly what happened now that I know what you're doing, where if you pull it past, it'll stop in the alpha region until you hit a command. I'm going to look into that.
Yeah.
Sasso of TorqueSim uses a little bit different technique for his engine than I did. We have different engines. I'm going to give it a try, and if I do that, then you won't see that problem anymore.
Okay.
I'm going to look into that pretty quick.
Awesome. All right, I'm just messing around with APR versus nav capture. I'm going to engage the APR when I'm a little bit more, I'm a little closer to the airport. Got some flaps in, got my gear down early. Turn up a little bit of sound so I can hear what's going on with the plane. bit slow, so boost up the throttle a little bit. Yeah, thank you, 777 Bob. Bupgoo2, yeah, we're looking forward to the weather radar in X-Plane 12. I'm looking forward to just a lot of things with X-Plane 12. It'll reignite that simulator that we all love. I lived in the Bay Area in from 98 to 2003, 2? Somewhere in there. I loved it down there. It's
I have to
fantastic.
admit, it's I spent a year there at Mill Valley, and it was one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been. It's definitely world class.
All right, looks like the ILS is coming in, and boom, there we go, capture. Yay!
Actually, I have a Jetstar. I have a Jetstar that I started a long time ago. I mean, a long time ago. I'm not gonna say I'll ever finish it, but I do love that airplane.
I didn't know about that. You were even had that in the hangar. I was making fun of it.
Yeah, it's not the most popular. I don't know. Obviously, I like these kind of old, quirky, planes with character.
I would like someone. In fact, you put this on the radar for any developers out there that ask you, "Hey, Tom, what do you think I should develop?" If you're not going to do it, then let them do it. But the new Cessna Sky Courier, that should be developed for this sim.
I can't even. How new is that? I haven't even heard.
I think the first one just flew recently. It is certified, I believe, but I think it's going to be the new FedEx plane to replace the Caravans, I think. All right, so we're looking good. I'm a little bit. Oh, there we go. We're going into that throttle problem I'm having, but that will be addressed. So the glide slope's working. What I'm going to do is what any pilot should do is hand fly it once you get down to a visual condition.
Yeah, and I did change the autopilot disconnect sound to the one from the MU-2. People pick up on that. It's the default sound. You have the default sound, but the new one is a really high pitch, 600 hertz. That's already been implemented for the release.
There is a giveaway going on, people. So exclamation raffle space 1 will get you into that giveaway. We're gonna do that at the end of the stream, so stay tuned for that. And I have to land at a little bit faster than normal because of my throttle problem that I'm having. But we'll have maintenance check out after I land.
You could go by the torque meters. You could bring it down to about 20 before you're going to go into reverse. You might give that a try. You should be able to get down to 20 without being anywhere near.
As soon as I go down below, whoa, 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 whoa.
See what you're saying. Okay, you're right. Yeah. Okay,
we saved it. We saved it.
Okay, you're right. You got it made.
Yeah, so I have to do a long landing. Yeah. And this is where you would normally engage your reversers. So yeah, that throttle adjustment there for the landing.
Yeah, that's a little suspect.
Yeah. We can play with the sensitivity of my joystick as well. Yeah, that right there. So let's see what it looks like on the pedestal when I'm doing that to see if it is going into a different range. So if I look down here, and it's when I'm crossing. Okay, so there's 60, there's 50.
Yeah.
So
now
it's like,
once you cross it by the mark, once they pop up like that, you see them pop up.
Yep, I see it pop up. Yep.
Yeah, you're into the beta region and you're going to get a drastic change in prop behavior at that point.
Okay.
So. Oh, John.
Prop sync was on too. It shouldn't have been.
Second, bring up your preferences real quick.
Okay, so over here on the side, preferences. a power level detent ratio?
You can change that.
Should I change that? You're breaking up a little bit. Should I change that to like 0.75 or something maybe to test?
Well, that's the crossover point animation for your yoke where it goes into your reverse. So if you set that to 0.33, then at 0.33 of your hardware travel,
Oh,
it will begin. So set that to 0.5 maybe, which is like the real, and it doesn't cost you anything. Just do it and hit save and then wiggle the throttle and see what you get.
okay. So there. Oh, yeah. I'm still getting the same.
Now you could set that when you set it to 0, then you go really old school X-plane where you pull your throttle all the way back and then you have to hit a toggle button. Do you remember those days?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you set it to 0, that's what you'll get. So you can pull your throttle all the way back, old school. So that should be halfway of your throttle travel right there.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you set that to 0, if you want to try that, then you're not going to go into reverse unless you hit a command button. And that's when you push your throttle. That's the way X-plane used to be a long time ago.
Yeah.
Actually, it still is if you prefer it. Some people do.
So again, I can go in and play with sensitivities here in the throttle here. You got control sensitivities. I've never changed these, so this is at 50. That's the pitch and roll though, so that shouldn't be related.
You would want to look at your response curve for
Yeah.
your axis.
Yeah.
Like where you throttle, you could hit add response curve and you could play with that. If you've never played with that,
So right
that
there.
that might could help. So that's a challenging guy to get used to.
Yeah, so I can play with that.
So click on the has beta reverse detents. All right, now actually change that pull down from Catmull to linear. It's a little pull down below the window.
Okay.
Is that the linear? Okay. Now that line represents your joystick. If you move your joystick, then you can see where you're going to go into beta and reverse.
Oh, okay.
And you can map it to where you want to go into beta and reverse by dragging those little yellow dots around.
All right, so beta doesn't get until here. And can I change the position of? Oh, I can. Oh, yeah.
Sure can. That's how you adjust your response curves.
It's
So for instance, I have a physical detent on my hardware, and I set that little yellow dot just below my detent so that I don't accidentally. And that's the way I have my hardware set up. Now, the beta to 0 should always be a straight line. Put your reverse halfway between beta. Well, you know what? It's up to you once you understand it. But
okay. This is so cool.
Yeah, there you go. You might get more predictable behavior.
This is the science of it's. What's that car racing game where we can really go in and tweak those same types of parameters? It's Valdude's got me into it. It's called it's not Forza, but you guys know what I'm talking about. The auto racing game where you can really tweak all that. That reminds me of that. The name
now, John,
Assetto Corsa. Yeah. Assetto. Not Mario Kart.
The detent ratio that I just had you set in the prefs is just for animation purposes. In other words, if you go into your throttle response curve and you move to where beta starts at like 0.34, then you would go set that preference to 0.34 so that your throttle and sim matches the real behavior. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That makes sense. So this is working, by the way.
Fixed.
This is fixed.
Yeah.
So John Fly landings can be much better with torque fixed. That's really cool. That was a very valuable lesson. Now, again, that switching from beta to reverse really does do a violent thing. But that's
prohibited in real world. You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
It'll flip you on your back if you're not careful.
Yeah. All right, cool. We did it. Assetto was great even all these years later. Yeah, it's pretty cool customizing. I always called Assetto Corsa the X-plane of racing. All right, I'm gonna set my parking brake here because we've been told by Tower to remain on the runway due to our shenanigans and the authorities are coming.
Had to. I mean, when I started having to write code for all the different response curves, that's when I learned it. And I was and the more I did, the more I was like, well, this is pretty cool. This actually can be pretty cool.
If only every developer could be in my Discord voice with me as I find problems that we solve instantly. Look at that. That just boom right there. We just fixed it.
Well, that's part of the online. I think the online docs. I want to start doing. I want to start doing a lot of more quick tutorial videos, fast ones that show people how to set up their hardware and make it work. And it's a new attempt to try to convey information a little quicker that's more convenient for people to consume. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and load up the Steam Gauge version at a, can you tell me an airport you'd like to go to in, anything west of Denver, to California, to the, Pacific Northwest. Any airport in particular, Tom, that you want me to just jump into?
I'm a fan of Telluride, KTEX.
Let's go to Telluride. I don't know if I probably have just some general scenery there, but let's go there. All right, we're gonna load up now. On here, again, we were using the MU-2 65 blade, corporate, and corporate red. You also have the baby blue. There you go, Dogo. You hear Dogo? Look at that. That one's for you. Canadian registration. You got plain white, and then you got the default, and then you got the 4-blade OEM. Now explain the difference between the GNS and the OEM, if you don't mind.
Yeah, the GNS has the Garmin GPS units in it, the 530 and the 430.
Okay.
The OEM, for those who don't know, the term OEM stands for Original Equipment Manufacturer. That basically means how it came from the factory. So the OEM model, MU2s, the last one came off the line in 1986, and a lot of the marquees are in the 79, 1980 range. So they don't have the GPSs or the Lorans. So they're just going to have the 4 radio dials. And I'd recommend you load up the 4-blade OEM, because whereas the one you just displayed is the newest one you can have, the 4-blade OEM represents the oldest MU2 that we simulate.
Okay, so 4-blade OEM. We'll load that up at Telluride, and I'm gonna do the Dogo DR, baby blue. All right, so there's just a few more minutes on the giveaway. If you want to get in on the giveaway, type in !raffle space 1. I'm gonna close. Let's close the raffle in 7 minutes at quarter two. So I'm gonna set a timer. I take pride in the fact that I was looking at yesterday at the giveaway, the giveaways that have been done on the John Fly channel since 2015, and we're over $9,000 in giveaways. It's crazy.
Giving's a good thing.
7 minutes. Let's see. But, a lot of these giveaways are basically the viewers have been donating and subscribing to my channel for so long that I like giving back your money. And you know what? I didn't even write it off either. I should have written it off all this time. Hello, Fast Joe. Hawker 125's in. Fred Rock is in. Danny Roots. Now you have to watch for a few minutes before you have been collecting snacks, the stream currency. I am partaking in a Firestone Walker 805. Has anyone had that before? Central Coast, California. Because you can do that while flying while simming. All right. Yeah, I don't have a ton of airport here. In fact, none. But it's okay. because we're focusing on the aircraft. All right, it looks like this Canadian registration is a medevac plane of sorts.
The interior is not medevac, but
Okay,
I don't know what to say. Maybe one day.
there you go.
That's the medevac corporate version. That's what it is.
I need to improve my Telluride situation. We've got a bumpy road up that way. I think we got some ortho going on there. Richard Skytrain, hello. Good eye.
So this represents mostly what a marquee would be like in its original form. Not completely. I took a little liberty with the radio panel, and it's hard to kind of explain why the last marquee that came off the line had a little bit different radio panel, but it had different switches for combinations for voices, since we don't really.
Okay, so here we go. Quite a bit different than the
Yeah, we're not
version.
using voice as much, in flight simming as we do in the real world. So the radio panel is ever so slightly simplified.
So you got your audio panel there. You've got your altitude. That's something that we like to have. I like it. I do like it. All right, let's show off the we've also got the GNS version here. Change that to the plain white. See how that looks. Flight. Is there any specific plane and X-plane you're excited to release? Well, besides this one releasing on Friday, which I'm excited for FS Economy. If I had to put my finger on it, I would say probably the Falcon would be the next exciting one. But again, they've decided to delay until X-Plane 12, I believe. So, all right. So here we got the GNS 530 and 430, right, Tom?
Yep, this will probably be the most common configuration flown. I mean, everybody flies this one.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks good. All right. Do you guys have any questions for Tom? Can I show just a little bit of the documentation? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. It's show people about what it's going to look like. Some night lighting too, maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah. In fact, I'm gonna go to I'll go to let's go to Vegas for some night lighting while I'm showing the documentation. So Vegas, go to signature, load up, add for some night lighting there. Giveaway is closing in 2 minutes! Exclamation raffle space 1 to get in the giveaway for this aircraft. I'm gonna go locate the documentation link.
Now, as a disclaimer for everybody, when this is done and I chase the first bugs for the first week, I am going to Oshkosh for 11 or 12 days. So as soon as I get back, I'll start on that GTN immediately.
GTN 750. Okay, so it's a web-based documentation here. You got your setup and configuration, preferences, joysticks. Oh yeah, this all looks good. Single paddle detent, all the good stuff there. Lever locks. Yeah, that looks good.
If you look at the section on the engine, you'll see what kind of information that. And what I love about this is,
you know what? I'm not showing it on stream. Hold on.
I was about to say, I thought I had a.
So right here is the
Thank you, Hawk.
engine and prop systems. Is that what you were referring to here?
Yeah, so that talks in depth about the levers and how they work, and it'll help you understand how to set up your hardware and things of this nature. So this is a really great system because I can update it so quickly, and I'll have a revision log and dates up there so people will know when it gets updated and what the new information is. So it's actually a high priority. These documents will probably double in length between now and Friday, if not 1.5 times longer. I'm working on them quite a bit. But yeah, I really
Oh
enjoy
yeah,
this.
this section
Keep-
here, negative torque
Yep.
sensing. That's a whole subject that is fantastic.
Well,
Okay.
and the search is really cool. So imagine you're flying the plane and you're like, doggone it, what's going on with this, condition lever? Well, you can go up and type in condition in the search, and you can get to the documentation relatively quickly on it.
Condition. There you go. It's all searchable. All right, that's the signal for the giveaway to be closed.
Yeah, so you can go to the condition lever operation, and I try to write it in ways that people can key in on words and search what they need to.
Oh, look at that. Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Jeez. That looks fantastic.
So it's kind of a handy way to learn.
There's your procedure checklist. All that good stuff. Landing gear. Oh, yeah. People are going to enjoy that. So, yeah, the documents, that's nice, though, because, again, documentation changes, and if you had a static PDF in your installation, you wouldn't be getting these updates that are going to happen. So
Well, and it's a lot of trouble when you're flying and you have an answer. People using a dual monitor, it's cumbersome to navigate to your folder, open the PDF and whatever your PDF viewer.
yeah,
But a lot of people keep their browser open, right? And then keep it on the side monitor, and you can search it really fast. So it's a great way to. And I think once I get my real rapid tutorial videos over there, then we can start doing micro videos like how to capture a VOR on the autopilot, so you could actually do it while you're in the middle of a flight. You'd be able to go into that section, click on it, watch it real quick, and just get just a quick tutorial. So
yeah,
that's the
the video link would be great. All right, quick and dirty, inverters on. We're gonna change this to nighttime for a moment, and before I do that, I'm gonna come up top, and I'm going to. Oh, that's interesting. My views were saved in the other variant and not this one, so I've got to go to the default view, save that. Then I'm going to do just a quick light view here. Kind of simulate a pilot looking at it from a side a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Just do it quickly. And then I'm going to change these instruments. And there's, if I recall correctly, there's also, isn't there a floodlight back here? Yeah, right there.
several. That's the cabin light.
Cabin floodlight. Okay.
There is a cockpit floodlight. Most people don't really look at it. It's way up above. It's behind the overhead.
Okay.
There's a map light and a cockpit floodlight, and most people don't look up that high. But there's a switch up there where you can switch those on.
Okay. And again, this is that situation where fuel quantity is showing 0. I'm wondering if we hit that outer pump, if it'll, look at that. All we need is a little strip, Las Vegas strip sightseeing tour fuel.
There you go. Now you can start.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at my code. It's I don't know how X-Plane handles its fuel between variants, whether it remembers in its preference file or not. But I think you're suggesting of putting a little bit of fuel and then allowing folks to add it. Be the way to go.
Yeah. Just a suggestion. I'll turn it a little bit darker here in a moment. Well, actually, I got enough lighting. Oh yeah, that looks pretty good. Maybe I'll turn these up just a little bit here.
You know, I used to fly the MU-2, and I've got a lot of good nighttime pictures of the cockpit. And I had to convince myself, when you look at King Airs and they've got these subtle floodlights, these green lights that they glow, but the MU-2's got these old internal and stalk lights, so they really do only light just the instrument faces. So you get these rings of just the faces, and everything else is really dark.
Mm. So how would I get lights on, say, for example, the gens switches? I can see the, where's that floodlight? Maybe that floodlight will help.
You just went out. Just give me a second, Tom. Yeah, that little black box there is 3 click spots. If you wiggle you're almost there. You were right on it. Nope. It's that black area, that dark area.
Oh.
It's a square. Move your mouse down. There you go, to the left. Move it just barely to the left.
Yeah, let me
Nope.
change this. Let me change the lighting in here.
It's a 3-way switch. It's flood, off, and map light. And if you click flood, it'll light up the entire
Okay,
cockpit.
so flood there.
Click
Map.
on the word flood. It's not a drag. This one's a kind of click on the word flood.
Oh, yeah.
And then now, if you go dark, it'll. And that's a good one to know, because if you had a fire and you flip the master switch, then the floodlight is the only light that'll work. It's just designed to get you out of the airplane.
Now I can see those gens. Perfect. Okay. All right, let's start the other engine. Left Alt L is a flashlight. That's a good point, friend all. Hello, off-sked descent. Oh, we need to change the starter. In fact, off-sked descent, did you ever dabble with the IXEG 737 in X-Plane? Tom here is the developer of that aircraft, and boy, was that a joy.
We put a flashlight in that one. We should have, I might do the same thing in here.
Off-sked descent is a real-world Captain 737.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. All right, this is the quick and dirty, just to show the night lighting. So, yeah, gens there. Let's set some flaps. I'm going to turn on my radios just to show what that would look like. Transponder's good. Up above, fasten seatbelt, beacon, nav, taxi. Wait for strobes.
John, can we see an outside view? Oh, there you go.
And it may be something wrong with my aircraft, but I'm not showing much of a taxi light, so I'm gonna turn on the landing lights to see what happens here.
Let's turn on the strobes also.
Strobes coming on. For whatever reason, I'm not seeing much of the taxiway in front of me.
It takes 10 seconds for the lights to extend and light up.
Oh, for the landing? Look at
Yeah.
that. Simulation.
You gotta wait for them to extend before they light up.
Oh, there.
And then, of course, we got the Wig Wag Mode if you want to see the Wig Wag Mode. Some people like that on approach. There's a switch on the panel for Wig Wag.
Wig Wag, what is that?
It's below the ADF frequency.
Oh, Wig Wag. On or off. What is that?
Well, flip the Wig Wag and look at the external lights from the front of the aircraft.
Okay, Wig Wag.
Some people use these for approach. And then turn it on down.
So Wig Wag. I don't see what.
Why don't you turn the sun down a little bit, make it darker.
Okay.
You'll see.
Sun down, darker.
Ah, you can see the Wig Wag lights on the wingtips.
Oh, yeah.
So some people use that on approach. If you look at some YouTube videos, you'll actually see a few MU2s, and they'll flip their wig wags on as they come in approach. Why, I don't know. It's not like a motorcycle or on a highway, but they do it anyway. And then when they land, they'll set it to solid. So.
Okay, I'm gonna use a little bit of night lighting for.
Thank you, Hawker. I had a couple of hours in it, and I don't want to stop until I feel like I've been in like I did in the real thing. So we'll keep going on it.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and draw the winner here. So you have to be present to win. So I'll give you 2 minutes to claim in the chat. And again, you don't get this till after release, obviously. But here we go. Good luck. Do I really mean that though? Because all of you can't have good luck. I've always wondered about that. Good luck to your, There we go. Now you've engaged. Hey, we got a winner. Taylor 114 has won the MU-2 V2 from TOGA Simulations and X Aviation. I will purchase this in one way or another. Taylor, go ahead and Discord message me, and we'll coordinate this. Again, release is scheduled for Friday, so you're probably looking at fulfillment of that award prize on Friday night or Saturday sometime. Congratulations. Well done. I now would like to give away a Zebo. So type in zebra in the chat, and I will give away the Zebo mod. But you must own X-Plane 11 already. Okay, night lighting. I never knew about Wig Wag. I'm almost questioning if there's a sim situation or something, because it just seems like the landing lights are not lighting up much of the taxiway, but it could be my airport or.
Crazy as this sounds, are you running X-Plane with HDR on your settings?
It's possible.
That's required for 3D lighting of lights.
I very rarely fly at night, so.
Yeah, that's.
But the few times that I have, I just seem to recall that somehow the landing lights did light up the taxiway, but.
I wonder if they've been turned off in some capacity.
You already won the Zebo on the Cat Strader stream? Yeah. He gave away a ton of those. Does this dev make any MSFS products? I don't believe so.
I will look into making a port. I don't know how difficult it is to dev for MSFS, but I am interested in porting this one to MSFS. So I'll look into it.
Well, that's great news. I wasn't expecting that response, to be honest.
Well, I said I'm gonna look into it. I won't commit to it. It's it's like learning a new language, and that's a challenge. So
yeah,
I have a lot of things I have to do, but
open to possibilities. Yeah,
we're gonna give it a look, see, and see what's what. Because a friend of mine is about to release San Antonio scenery for I&I builds, and of course I live in San Antonio.
Okay.
And the developer lives not too far from me, and so, I used to fly the MU-2 out of San Antonio, and so it's me that would love to have that combination.
Yeah. Do you mind if I violate some FAA rules and fly down the strip a little bit with your aircraft? Just
come on. That's why you do it, because you don't have to ask.
Okay.
I'm thinking you might not have HDR on, because all your runway lights should be lighting and things of that nature. And if you don't fly at night, then there's really no reason for you to.
Yeah, I probably would require a restart of the sim with HDR, so I might come back to that. Yeah. So I'm doing that little trick. I'm going a little bit faster before I pull up.
Well, it's after you pull up because you don't want to overdo the tires. You want to get off the ground at about 105.
Oh, that's right. And then kind of keep it level for a little bit, and then at 150 something, right?
The deck to about 150, and there's you know, there's real aerodynamic reasons for that ground effect. It's less drag and you can accelerate quicker. And
There's the Hard Rock Cafe.
you know, bush pilots bush pilots do this on short runways to get up their airspeed really quickly. Oh, that's pretty cool scenery. I can't say I've.
Yeah, this one's got the Luxor light. It's got the whole shebang there.
Who is this? Whose scenery is this, John?
I can't remember. Is this might be Fly Tampa maybe? No, what is it, guys? Who makes the X-Plane Vegas? All right, so I'm gonna bring back the throttle just a little bit. I'll go ahead and turn on the autopilot sheet here for a little bit.
You know, friend to all, it's from a developer point of view, you know, it's you know, we're trying to make aircraft that's realistic, and Microsoft's SDK is not as mature yet as X-Plane. So, and X-Plane SDK does follow a kind of a more physics-oriented methodology, so people who know about aerodynamics are comfortable developing it. However, you know, flight simulation is enjoyed across so many by so many people for so many different reasons. I don't think that's a reason to cut off, you know, development of one, you know, just because you want the most realistic one. In other words, I might not be able to get the MU-2 simulated to the level of fidelity that I can in X-Plane, but that wouldn't preclude me from doing it because I would still have a good time, I think, flying it around in the Microsoft space.
We're just going here. I think the aircraft looks great at night. I think I need to do more night flying.
Well, it's got the good night scenery.
And now that I've fixed my throttle, I can do a decent landing. I had to find the heading knob in the dark. Yeah, the Luxor light is not as bright anymore. Yeah, they needed to turn down the power bill.
No kidding.
Yeah, it does look good.
Yeah, that is nice scenery.
Mm-hmm. Is Vulcan on or off? That's a good question. I'll do a quick non-realistic top here. That's in graphics. Vulcan is on. Remind me where HDR is.
Yeah, it's your visual effects slider. It has to be all the way to the right, which is probably a monster, depending on your setup. So
Yeah.
so
Okay.
yeah, you do not have HDR on, so you're not getting the 3D lighting.
That makes sense. Okay. But I am getting, well, right now with Vegas, it's frame rates are right at 30, which is fine because I'm on a 48-inch 4K TV.
Oh, yeah, you're pushing a lot of pixels.
There's a lot of pixels, and I'm quite happy with 30 frames running at 4K over Fly Tampa Vegas while streaming on the same PC.
Yeah,
So,
that's pretty. 30 frames is the minimum, kind of for me. That,
yeah.
think
But I will
people
say that I was getting 60 frames with this aircraft when I was around San Francisco, and so the plane is not frame heavy. I'm gonna go ahead and say that.
Now, I would have to say that all our products, I say all the ones I've been involved in, IXEG is, we're really, really big on optimizing the aircraft for performance. It's a real big deal.
Okay, autopilot off, doing some stunt maneuvers here. You plan to buy a nice TV when I get settled in? Well, I'll tell you what, I would highly recommend the LG C1 or LG C2 OLED. It's fantastic. I mean, this is, I wish you guys could see this. It's gigantic, and it's just, and it works well with simming for sure. And it's got nice hertz and millisecond and all that good stuff. It's just designed for this. And this, of course, the C1 is fine and cheaper now because the C2 came out. Do you run with HDR turned on under Windows display settings? I don't think I do right now. And Sparker has HDR off in VR, but only fly during the day. Okay, yeah. I'll mess around with HDR and get that going. It's night lighting.
Yeah. X-Plane 12 is HDR all the time too. And you don't get an option. It's just the way it is. One of the nice things about X-Plane 12 is this just their new photometric lighting model is really fantastic. The panel's a lot more readable. It's not quite so dark, and it's a really nice look.
I like the sound of the gear coming down.
You know, when I was learning F-Mod, you really start to get an appreciation for how important all the oral cues are. You know, so one of the things I added, John, that you don't have with the keys was the key jingle when you take it out and put it back.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because anytime you move anything, your brain expects to hear some sound associated with it. So I'm finding it makes for a much more immersive experience that way.
Mm. I'm definitely taking some liberties here on the approach.
John, I'm gonna have to close up in a little bit. If anybody's got any questions, I'll be happy to answer. But I'm gonna have to kind of jump off and spend some time with the wife before nighttime.
I thank you so much for being here tonight. It's been a pleasure. I'm glad that you were able to come on and you answered all of my questions, and we even did some troubleshooting, which I didn't mean to do, but I'm glad we
had a great time.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to answer any other questions that you got as well.
Usually you land on the left here, but anyone have any last questions here? Thank you. Yep, Sparker says thanks. D-Monies. Let's see if I can land.
Sounds good. Well, for anybody that decides to get it, you know, and finds everything, I'm highly committed to it. There'll be a place on the forums to air any bugs or requests. I'm going to move all of those to the online documentation and just keep updating it like I have for the last 14 years.
There you go. It's been 14 years since the first one. There you go.
Well, actually, the first version flew in 2005, so it's been 18 years since
That's like 3 wives ago for me.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna head on out. John, I'll catch up with you again soon.
Okay, talk to you soon. See ya. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Wow, what a treat. All right, I'm going to set my parking brake here, of course, because you're supposed to stop on the runway, right? All right, I'll be definitely doing some FS economy on this, FS economy in the near future in this bird for sure. But yeah, that was fun. Isn't it? Thank you. Yeah, all you guys saying thanks, Tom. It's so